This video was created to help customers take measurements for the perfect sweater. Things you will need: yarn or string, a tape measure, a straight edge like a ruler or envelope, and a friend to help you measure. Let's start with circumference measurements. You'll need 7 of them. You'll need to measure around the head, the base of the neck, under the underarms, around the chest, below the chest, around the waist, and at the hips. When making measurements, you'll need to measure around the head. And the reason for that is I want to make sure that your sweater fits over your head and then onto your body. So when you take this measurement, it's not necessarily important where you put the measuring tape as long as you make sure it fits around the head in a way that your sweater will fit over your head. When measuring the neckline, you could take a lanyard or another chain and lay it around the base of the neck with the weight on it, and that will give you an idea of where the natural neckline base is. If you measure the neck, what happens is it'll actually be smaller than the base of the neck itself. And let's say you have a crew neck, you actually want the crew neck to lay at the base of the neck, not at the top. This also helps when I have the measurement around the base of the neck for me to adjust for any V-lines or any neck depths that you want. So you'll lay it across the base of the neck. And this is how it should look. Whenever you take measurements, it might be easier for you to mark the horizontal points on the person's body. So you'll need the upper bust, the bust line, the under bust, the waist, and the hips. For the upper bust line, you need the string to go around completely underneath the underarms, as high up in the underarms as possible. For the bust line, you'll need to have the highest part of the bust. For the under bust, it's right below the chest. And then for the waist, to figure out where the waistline is, ask your model to bend from each side. And then you'll kind of see where, and bend to the other side. You'll kind of see where the bends are between the upper torso and the bottom torso, and that's where your waistline would be. Then for the hips, what I do ask is if you're measuring around the hip line, you don't necessarily need the widest point of the hips. You most likely need the point where you want your sweater to fall. So she would like her sweater to fall right below her belt loops, and that's where the string is going to be. Whenever you tie the strings, it is best to make sure that the string all the way around the body is horizontal to the ground. If for some reason it's not horizontal because she's leaning to one side or the other naturally, maybe her spine is curved, then you line it up the best you can, and then we'll take measurements accordingly. You might need more measurements than what I'm asking for in order to make your sweater fit to match the curve of your spine. For you to find out where your shoulder point is and where your arm attaches to your body, what you'll need to do is you should tie a vertical string so that it goes from the underarm straight up. So this would actually be where her shoulder seam would be on a shirt. And that way when you measure the distance from the neck to the shoulder, you'll have that point right here. When you take the cross front measurements, you want to measure from the point where the arm and the body connect on each side. So you'll want to get your tape measure right in here, measure all the way across, and she's about a 34 centimeter across front. You'll also need to measure from the highest point of the shoulder down to the upper bust line, and also from the shoulder point down to the upper bust line. And you'll need to do that for both sides if one shoulder is higher than the other. Michael actually has one shoulder slightly higher than the other. If you can look closely, this shoulder is higher than this shoulder. But since the difference is so slight that it's almost unnoticeable, it shouldn't make a difference in the measurements. But if you wanted to be careful and wanted to skip the step of having to measure both sides of your body, I would measure the higher side rather than the lower side. For the vertical measurements, what you'll need to do is you'll need to measure from the base of the neck down the front, and you'll basically find the point at each horizontal line to take your measurements. So you'll know from here, her neckline is about 10.5 centimeters. Down to here, it would be 19 centimeters. Down to here, it's 29, then to 35, and then The entire sweater from the neckline down would be about 48.5 centimeters. When you want to do the cross back, same concept as the cross front. You want to get right from the underarm where the arm and the body connect, and then you'll go all the way across. So when you go across from the cross back, she's at 36. Whenever you measure the vertical measurements from the back side, again, you want to do it from the center of the neck, at the base of the neck, and there's a bone that protrudes, and that will help you figure out where you should start at the base of the neck and the back. And then you basically roll down again. And if you want a sweater fitted, then you want to make sure your tape measure lays against the body. Because if you want your sweater fitted, this is the length that I'll need to have in order to make the sweater hug against your body. But if you like your sweater to fall pretty straight, you can go straight down like this, and there will be a slight gap in between the body and the tape measure. When you measure the arm, you want to go from the shoulder all the way down to the wrist. And for the outer arm measurement, you actually want the measurement to go around the elbow and down. So from Desiree's position, her shoulders only lean forward a slight bit. So if she, for some reason, was standing straighter than she normally does, it actually changes the measurement of your arm. So you want your model, or the person whose measurements you're taking, to stand as natural as possible. So that way, whenever they wear their sweater, the arms and the sleeves lay the way it normally would. So if she had adjusted her posture, then the measurements would completely change. So what you would do is you would hold your measurement at the top of the sleeve, you go all the way down, but you want to make sure that you lay your tape measure against the body. And so her sleeves are 65 centimeters. Then when you do the underarm seam, what you would want to do is, if you don't mind turning, so when she holds her arm out slightly, you'll again place your tape measure right in here, and then put your arm down naturally. Is that how? And then you'll follow the inside curve of her arm down to her wrist. And this would be 46 centimeters. When measuring the arms, if you notice the difference between Michael and Desiree, his arms actually angle a little bit more forward than hers does. So when you take this measurement, again, you want to go along the top of the shoulder, down past the elbow, and you want to hold that tape measure here so that it runs along the base of the arm down to the wrist. So if Michael wants his sweater to be slightly shorter to show his watch, then you would stop where his watch shows. To measure the front and the back arm drops, what you'll need to do is take something with a straight edge. If you don't have a ruler, you can use something like a legal size envelope and ask your friend to hold it in place. They should still be able to stand naturally, so you probably don't want something very heavy. You want something light enough that they can hold in place and still stand with a natural posture. You do want to make sure you adjust it so that the envelope or the straight edge is parallel to the floor. That will give you an even measurement. So when you measure, you want to measure again from the top of the shoulder down the front to where the envelope is. And so this would be 15 centimeters. And then when you measure it from the back, you measure it down, and then you'll find out where it hits when it hits the envelope or the straight edge.